Hello students, today we are going to continue with tokens in Java and then we are going to discuss about the various data types. In the last module, we discussed about keywords, identifiers and various types of literals as examples of token in Java. I believe you all have already completed the question answers in your notebook. Let's now continue with the next few examples of a token in Java. The next thing that we are going to discuss in token are punctuators. Now, punctuators in Java are the symbols used for grouping or separating the code in a Java program. They are also called separators in Java. Let us take few examples. Curly brackets, which are used for defining a block or the body of a method, a class, a conditional statement, a loop, etc. Then we have parentheses, the circular brackets. They are used to define methods, conditions, precedence of operators, which means the order in which the operators will be executed in a given expression. Then we have a semicolon as an example, which is used to separate statements within a Java program. That is, we can also call it as a statement terminator. Remember the brackets like curly brackets, the circular brackets, the square brackets in Java are also called delimiters. Okay, the next token that we are going to discuss is operator. An operator in Java can be defined as a symbol which can be used to perform some calculation or to make comparisons. So let us discuss few of the operators. The first one, as you see on the screen, is arithmetic operator. These operators are responsible for performing calculations. So we have a plus for addition, a minus for subtraction, asterisk for multiplication, a forward slash for division, that is for the quotient, a percent symbol again for division, but in this case it is going to return the remainder. Then we have relational operators which are used to make comparisons. We have 6 of them: less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to and not equal to. Then the third category is logical operators. Whenever we have to make more than one comparison in the same statement, we make use of a logical and, logical or, and when we have to reverse the result, then we make use of a not operator. It is called logical not. Okay, moving on to the next category, that is assignment operator. So if you see on the screen, it is equal to sign. Now this operator is used to assign a value to a variable. That means to give a value to a variable. Moving ahead with increment or decrement operator, it is represented by a double plus or double minus. It increases the value by 1 or decreases the value by 1. Then we have unary operator. Unary operator is an operator which uses one operand. Operand is actually the value or the variable on which we operate. Like if I write a plus b, then plus is the operator and a and b are the operands. In the case of unary operator, there is only one operand. That is, we are going to write a plus. So only one value that we are using, only one variable we are using with the operator. So we have a unary plus or a unary minus. The final operator that we are discussing is ternary operator. Like we have discussed earlier, ternary operator is an operator which is going to make use of 3 operands this time. It is represented by a question mark followed by a colon. Now this operator is also called as a conditional operator because it is going to replace if-else statement. How, we are going to discuss it later. So moving ahead with the next topic of chapter, that is data types in Java. Okay, so when we are talking about data type, we are actually talking about the type of value that can be assigned to a variable. Let us take an example. Int x is equal to 5. Here x is the variable which is storing 5 in it. But what is 5? 5 is actually an integer value. So what is int doing in front of x? It is specifying that x is going to store only an integer value. If we try to store some fractional value in it, it will be a syntax error. So data type is actually going to define the type of value that can be given to a variable. Now these data types can be divided into two categories. The first one is called a primitive data type. These are the fundamental data types that are integral part of Java programming language. They're also called intrinsic or built-in data type. So most basic data types, the integral part of Java programming language is primitive data type. They are 8 in numbers, which are byte, short, int, long, char, float, double, and Boolean. The next category of data type is non-primitive data type. These are the data types that are derived from the primitive data types. They are also called reference data type, derived data type, or composite data type for the same reason. Let us talk about few examples of non-primitive data types now. It can be a class, an array, a string, etc. So here in this screen we can see the diagram which is actually showing you the bifurcation of data types. Data types are basically categorized into two major classifications. One is called primitive, the other one is called non-primitive. Under primitive it can be numeric data type or non-numeric. Under numeric it can be an integer or a fractional value, that means a floating value. So if you are going to count the number of subcategories, it will be 8 in number. So under primitive we have 8 data types. Then on the other hand, for non-primitive there are various examples given. So observing this diagram you can understand the classification of data types in Java. This screen is going to let you know about the default value and the size which is associated with the primitive data types. We have all the 8 data types mentioned in the table if you see. And in front of each data type there is a default value and the size. What is this default value now? Now remember, the variable which is going to be of this type is going to be assigned some value. In case the user does not give any value to the variable, then by default the computer is going to initialize some value. So these are the values which will be given to the variable in case the user does not give any value to the variable associated with the data type. And the size is also very important. So this screen is important. You have to go through the size and the default value for each and every primitive data type mentioned. Okay. The next term that we are going to discuss is a variable. Variable, as the name suggests, something which is going to vary. It keeps on changing. Okay, so a variable is actually an identifier. Remember, identifier is a token which is defined as a named memory location. So a variable is actually an example of identifier. It is used to store some value in it. It is like a container which is going to contain some value in it. As an example, int x is equal to 5. So here x is the variable which is storing the value 5 in it. So it is a named memory location in the memory of the computer. Okay. So when we are talking about variable, we are going to talk about these two things also. One is called variable declaration and the other is called variable initialization. Variable declaration means specifying the data type of a given variable. As an example, int x, float y, char a, etc. means x is going to have the values of integer type, y is going to have the values of float type, and a is going to have the values of character type. At the same time, variable initialization means we are assigning some value to the variable. For example, x is equal to 5. So we are assigning an integer value 5 to a variable x. Similarly, y is equal to 8.9. Here the value 8.9, which is actually a fractional value, is getting stored in a memory location named y. And in the next example, within single quotes, r is actually a character which is getting stored in a variable a. So this is how it is done. Now we move ahead with the next topic, that is the keyword final. Final is actually used at the time of variable declaration. What is the purpose of it? It is going to make the value stored in a variable fixed. Remember, as I have told you earlier, variable is something that is going to have the values keep on changing in it. But if I write final in front of it, the value stored in it will remain fixed. It is never going to change. Let us take an example. Final int x is equal to 5. So here x is a variable which stores 5 in it. But because I have mentioned final in front of it, the value 5 is never going to change throughout the execution of the program. Now the memory locations whose value cannot be changed within a program, it is all because of the final keyword. These memory locations, instead of being called a variable, will be called as constants or symbolic constants. So if the memory location has a value which keeps on changing, then it will be called as a variable, and if the memory location has a value which remains fixed, it will be called as a constant or symbolic constant. The usage of this final keyword is that it improves the program readability. The user doesn't have to worry that whether the value has been changed in some or the other statement of the program of any variable. So the user has a mindset the variable will have the same value throughout the program. At the same time, if somebody tries to change the value without the knowledge of the programmer, then the program is going to give some syntax error, because if you have mentioned final keyword, that means you cannot change the value stored in the variable. Okay, after this explanation, we have to move ahead with the actual assignment decided for the week. Here you have to answer the given questions neatly in the same computer notebook in which you have done the earlier assignment. The first question: what is variable initialization in Java? How is it different from variable declaration? You have to give examples. Now this has been already stated in the explanation part, and the PDF has to you has the same explanation, so you can always go through it and you will be able to write the answer for this question. The next question says you need to define the given terms. So we have the terms final, symbolic constant, variable, punctuator. All the terms have been explained, so you need to get the answer and you have to mention it in the notebook. The next question is to distinguish between primitive and non-primitive data types with 2 examples each. So you should be able to write the answer for this question after going through the explanation carefully. Last but not the least, the question is list the size and default values that can be taken by the primitive data types. Now this I have already told you, one slide completely is containing all the default values and size for the primitive data types. You have to refer that slide and you will be able to write the answer for this question. So that means we are done with today's module, and you have to complete your work neatly, and once this is done, we are done with the complete chapter. This one complete chapter has been completed. The name of the chapter is values and data types. So we have covered everything in this chapter. In case you have the book, you have already purchased the textbook, you should go through all the solved question answers which are there towards the end of the chapter and see that you are able to understand it. If there is any sort of query, you can always keep it marked so that whenever the school opens, we can discuss it. So till we meet next time, need to take care of yourself now. Stay safe. Thank you.